Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on our research design proposal for our client Buzz Me Up. This presentation is brought to you by our team, myself, Kaylin Bodwin, my colleagues, Jamie Bynum, Libby Hargrove, and Yesenia Padilla. So let's start off with our management decision problem. To kick things off, our team's collective management decision problem centers on how Buzz Me Up can better understand and prioritize its key customer segments, and then frame its messaging and pricing in a way that really connects with those consumers. So essentially, this question ties together everything we've each studied, segmentation, value communication, and long-term growth. So our management decision problem is how should Buzz Me Up identify and prioritize target customer segments and framing in order to optimize product features, pricing strategies, and potential AI integration with the goal of increasing client acquisition, paid conversions, and long-term retention. So, to start off our literature review, now when we looked at existing research, one big trend did stand out. We noticed that the pandemic, COVID that is, completely reshaped how people think about prop tech or property technology. As Casey noted in 2022, what used to be considered luxury technology, like smart locks, keyless entry, etc., actually quickly became the norm. And so, in a way, COVID-19 accelerated user expectations for convenience and constant updates. And that really paved the way for companies like Buzz Me Up to grow and innovate.
Privacy and security worries are rising. About 67% of smartphone users are concerned about their data. The key finding for us is when a product shows strong, understandable security, that fear can increase purchase confidence. For Buzz Me Up, that means making privacy protections clear and simple so concern becomes a positioning advantage.
Research indicates that consumers want personable, friendly AI features, which can be highly lucrative to Buzz Me Up as Airbnb owners can utilize this to attract renters. However, subscription fatigue, which is the sense of frustration to increasing subscription rates, is in fact rising, which is why Buzz Me Up also must look at its pricing model, especially with its very high 90% drop off in subscription rates.
So that brings us to our research questions. The first one being which customer segments show the highest alignment between their unmet needs and Buzz Me Up's value proposition, and how can this guide feature and pricing strategy? So, how can Buzz Me Up fill the gaps between what is already on the market and what the consumer is missing when it comes to their needs? Research question two, how do different pricing models and the way they are framed impact perceived value, trust, and willingness to convert among high priority segments? What is the most attractive pricing model and why? And finally, research question three, what are the key trust drivers that influence user retention and engagement across target segments? This is asking what makes the consumer trust or mistrust their data in the virtual hands of tech companies and what can be done to retain customers in light of this. So, which brings us to our methodology. We're going to use qualitative and quantitative methods like surveys and observations to address our research questions, and we'll also conduct a content analysis on Buzz Me Up's top competitor, Butterfly MX, to gauge consumer satisfaction and what's already available to them, what works and what doesn't.
To address research question one, our team will create a survey to gather data on demographics, as well as housing needs, rental needs, use of technology, and other uses of luxury services from our participants. Then analyze that data to create consumer profiles for Buzz Me Up's key target markets. This helps segment consumer personas, and our data analysis will help us understand what drives each consumer profile. That means we'll be able to look clearly at their needs and wants, their preferences, and their desires.
Okay, so as mentioned for our second research question, we are going to explore how different pricing models, like all-in-one versus tiered or add-on options, affect how users perceive value, trust, also their willingness to adopt or subscribe. Now, to test this, participants will see one of two nearly identical Buzz Me Up ads. Both will highlight the same features, but only one will show an all-in-one price, while the other will use an add-on model. Now, after viewing the ad, participants will answer questions measuring three things: their behavioral intention, also known as their likelihood to subscribe, their perceived value, and their trust in the product. We will analyze the results in SPSS to better understand results on a scale. And this approach essentially works because it helps us as researchers to better understand not just which pricing model performs better, but why users feel the way they do about certain models.
To answer research question 3, we're going to build off the results from our survey and perform interviews with users from each target segment, as well as focus groups segmented by lifestyle or living situation. This is going to ensure a more in-depth understanding of what Buzz Me Up's consumer base values the most in an app of this type, and ultimately what they're willing to pay for access to that value.
We benchmarked against Butterfly MX because it's the biggest hardware-based intercom with a deep review trail, lots of buildings, and lots of real-world use. That gives us a clean contrast, metal boxes and installers versus our software-only approach. By mining their reviews, we map how users talk about trust, reliability, price fairness, and everyday convenience so we can position Buzz Me Up where hardware struggles. First, we listen. We pull about 100 to 200 verified reviews and code them inductively for themes: privacy and trust, reliability and uptime, ease of use and access sharing, support and price and value. Then we build a tight code book with short examples so everyone scores the same way. It's a translation guide from what people say to what it means. Then we count. Using the code book, we tag themes with ones and zeros, summarize frequencies, and run quick cross tabs like price mentions with star ratings or trust cues with positive versus negative in sentiment. Finally, we visualize so the big drivers stand out. Less detective work for the audience, more clarity for decisions. What do we get? Segmentation shows who cares about what. Pricing analysis shows where value feels fair or not, and trust metrics show how privacy and reliability connect to good outcomes. Butterfly MX gives us the grounded benchmark. The analysis turns it into a practical roadmap for Buzz Me Up, positioning, messaging, and conversion, useful and a little easier on the wallet.
Understanding that as marketing professionals who want to remain nimble and cutting edge, we may update this strategy and refine it as we gather more data. In its current iteration, we're seeing roughly 200 participants involved in this study, as well as 150 units for content analysis. Now, the benefit of this large pool is that we can also offer the option for participants to join further qualitative research, thereby expanding our budget or expanding the utility of our budget and gaining deeper insights into our research questions.
That brings us to our deliverables. So, our deliverables for this project are actually going to be the analysis, which will be accompanied by recommendations. These recommendations will inform future business focuses and goals, including feature prioritization, expansion strategy, and investment strategy. As well, we have already conducted a market analysis and a competitive analysis, as well as a brief client audit. So we're off to a good start.
Again, this is our team. And these are our references. Thank you so much for your time.